On June 3, 2022, something very strange happened in a small town in the northwest of Montana, USA. In this town, which has just over 900 people, a 3-year-old boy named Ryker Webb went missing. At first, it seemed like he had just gotten lost, like when a child hides during a game and no one can find them. But as days went by and no one could find Ryker, things started to seem stranger. There were 3 whole days of searching, with many people looking for him, and yet they couldn't find him. When they finally found Ryker, he was in a very hard-to-reach place and seemed to have gone through a lot. The way he was found left everyone very confused because it seemed impossible that such a small boy could have survived alone for so long in that place. Before continuing with the video, remember to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive notifications of new videos. That way, you won't miss any new content. The story of Ryker Webb's disappearance is full of mysteries, and to this day, no one can really explain what happened. Even the most logical explanations seem unbelievable. It's a story full of questions and few answers. There was a small town in the countryside surrounded by forests and mountains. In this town lived the Webb family. They lived in a small house that was a little far from the other houses, right next to the forest. It was a Friday afternoon, and little Ryker was in his backyard playing with the dog and his father. They were having fun while waiting for Ryker's mother to come back from work. The backyard was a very special place for Ryker because there were many insects, like ladybugs, ants, and butterflies, and he loved watching these little creatures. Ryker's curiosity about these small animals made him want to play in the backyard all the time. At a certain point, Ryker's father went inside the house to get something for the boy to eat. He left Ryker in the yard for a few minutes while he went to grab a tasty snack. When Ryker's father returned to the yard, the boy had disappeared. He was no longer there, and this made his father very worried and scared. The man began to call out for his son, shouting Ryker's name several times, but there was no answer. He looked around the yard but found no sign of the boy. Then Ryker's father ran to the neighbor's house to ask if anyone had seen the boy passing by, but no one had seen anything. They began to get more worried and quickly decided to call the police to help search for Ryker. Soon, many people got involved in the search for the boy. Police officers, the FBI, which is a special investigation team, the National Guard, which are like soldiers who help in emergency situations, and local rescue teams all came. Even volunteers, people from the town who wanted to help, joined the search. They needed a lot of help because the area around Ryker's house was full of trees and mountains, making it very difficult to find anyone. The search was intense, with all these people working together to try to find the missing boy. When night came, things got even harder for those looking for Ryker. At first, it seemed like it would be a quiet night for the search, with good weather and no rain. But suddenly, the weather changed, and a very strong storm began. The heavy rain made everything complicated. The rainwater erased all the tracks Ryker could have left, like footprints on the ground, which made the search even harder. The storm also made Ryker's family very sad and worried, because it seemed like the chances of finding the boy were getting smaller and smaller. The next day, the rain was still falling, but it was much lighter, like a gentle drizzle. This helped the search teams continue looking for Ryker. This time, they brought in sniffer dogs, which are dogs trained to use their sense of smell to find people, and helicopters, which flew overhead to try to see anything that could help find the lost boy. Everyone was doing their best to bring Ryker back to his family. Unfortunately, even with all this help, Ryker still wasn't found. The people searching for him found only one clue. Some stones were stacked in a strange way in an area of the forest. This made them think Ryker might have passed by there, maybe looking for insects under the stones and stacking them in one place. But as time went on, the chances of finding Ryker were decreasing. He had already faced a very strong storm and was still lost in a forest full of wild animals like bears and mountain lions, which are big and can be dangerous. In addition, the weather in that region was very cold. During the day, the temperature was around 12 degrees Celsius, which is already quite cold. But at night, the situation got even worse, with the temperature dropping to 4 degrees. It was very difficult for someone, especially a small child, to survive in such conditions. Everyone was very worried about Ryker, knowing he was in a very difficult situation. Since Ryker was still wet from the rain, there was a very high chance he could get hypothermia, which is when the body gets very cold and can be dangerous. His family knew it would take a miracle to find Ryker alive. On the morning of June 5th, something incredible happened. The police received a call saying that Ryker Webb had been found. A couple, who were helping as volunteers, found Ryker in an abandoned cabin, far from where he had disappeared, about 3 kilometers from the Webb family's home. The people who found Ryker said they were passing by the cabin when they heard some murmurs coming from inside, like the sounds of an animal. This caught their attention, and they decided to open the door to see what was going on. When they opened it, they saw Ryker sitting inside. The couple was very relieved and happy to have found the boy. They picked Ryker up and quickly took him to an ambulance, which took him to the hospital to see if he was okay. At that moment, they took a picture of Ryker, and everyone was surprised because, despite everything he had been through, Ryker seemed to be doing too well. Considering everything Ryker went through, he didn't seem desperate or was crying. Instead, he had a shocked expression on his face. His eyes were wide open as if he had seen something frightening, and he had a strange smile, like he didn't know what to feel. It seemed like he had seen things a child shouldn't see. The photo they took of Ryker was described in many different ways by the people who saw it. Some said the picture was heartbreaking because it showed a boy who had been through something very difficult. Other people felt uncomfortable looking at the photo because you could tell he was scared. Some people even said that Ryker had the 1,000-yard stare, an expression that emerged in World War I to describe the look of soldiers who were traumatized by what they saw and experienced in the war. This type of stare is associated with people who have gone through very frightening and difficult experiences that leave deep marks on their memory. At first, it seemed like Ryker's story would have a happy ending, because thank God he was found and was unharmed. But, in fact, this was just the beginning of a case full of mysteries and strange things. The first question everyone asked was, how did a 3-year-old boy manage to survive a strong storm in a forest full of mountains, where animals like bears and mountain lions live? And how did he manage to end up so far away, 3 kilometers from the house where he disappeared inside an abandoned cabin? The sheriff of the town of Troy, who is like the local police chief, told the story they believed to be true. According to him, Ryker was playing in his backyard, looking for insects, which he loved. Then he got excited and left the yard to look for more insects. While doing this, he ended up getting lost in the forest. This explanation seemed simple, but it still left many people curious and full of questions because it was hard to understand how such a small child managed to survive all that alone. So, when the storm began, Ryker apparently walked so far that he found a cabin and hid there to shelter from the rain. He stayed in the cabin until he was found. But this story didn't seem to make much sense because Ryker was only a 3-year-old child. It was hard to believe he had walked so far alone in such a short time and knew what to do to take shelter. Moreover, from the beginning, there were some strange things about the story. When Ryker disappeared, his father said he was playing with the family dog. However, when the father returned to the yard after getting something from the house, he found only the dog, who was very agitated, but didn't find Ryker. Normally, dogs that grow up with children are very protective and take good care of them. So, it's strange to think that the dog couldn't stay close to Ryker or didn't help find the boy. This made people wonder if there was something else going on in that story. So, why didn't the dog follow Ryker when he got lost? And why was the dog so agitated? Another strange thing was that it took them a long time to call the police. According to the Troy police, Ryker had already been missing for 2 hours before they were called. Maybe the parents didn't want to make a big fuss in the small town, so they tried to search with the help of some neighbors first. When they couldn't find Ryker, they called the authorities. But the strangest part of the story was when Ryker was found. As we've discussed, it was hard to understand how a 3-year-old child could have gone through everything he did and still not have any injuries. He didn't seem dehydrated, meaning he wasn't thirsty or lacking water. Normally, an adult can go up to 3 days without drinking water before the body starts having serious problems. It's even harder to imagine how such a small child could have survived all that without looking so bad. We can imagine that for a 3-year-old child, the time they can go without water and food is even shorter. Even so, Ryker seemed to be fine when he was found. Although he didn't look perfect, he wasn't malnourished, which is when a person doesn't eat enough. or dehydrated, which is when a person is very thirsty and needs water. It almost seemed like someone had given him food and water during the time he was lost. Additionally, some concerning rumors emerged. Some people said that when the parents saw Ryker being rescued, they didn't believe the boy was really their son. When they compared the photo of Ryker a month before he disappeared with the photo of when he was found, it looked like they were two different children. Another thing that was mentioned, but not confirmed, is that the boy was wearing different clothes than he was wearing when he disappeared. This left everyone even more confused and worried. After Ryker was found, his story spread very quickly, along with his photo. With this, many rumors and gossip started to circulate. Some people began to say that maybe Ryker wasn't the true son of the parents. The parents, worried, decided to do a DNA test to make sure the boy they found was really their son. Sometimes the test showed that he wasn't, which left everyone very confused. Many different ideas emerged to try to explain what happened to Ryker. Some of these ideas were quite strange. Some people even said that maybe extraterrestrials, aliens, had taken Ryker, or that the boy found wasn't the real Ryker, but rather a skinwalker, a type of evil creature that can shapeshift, or a doppelganger, a person who looks very much like another. These ideas are very fantastical and have no evidence, but they showed how people try to understand what seemed to be a difficult mystery to solve. Some of the stranger ideas talked about creatures called skinwalkers and doppelgangers. These creatures are known in old stories and myths for transforming into other people or animals to deceive and approach others without them noticing. They would do this to catch or scare people. But there was a theory that seemed more logical than the story told by the sheriff. Some people started to think that maybe Ryker had been kidnapped by someone. According to this idea, a person would have taken Ryker to the cabin where he was found, and while he was there, this person would have given him food and changed his clothes. This theory seemed more plausible to some people because it better explained how Ryker managed to survive and why he was different from what was expected. It seems that, out of fear of getting caught, and with the search for Ryker becoming more and more intense, the person who kidnapped Ryker ended up giving up on the plan. This person left Ryker alone in the cabin, where he was found shortly after. Even though this idea makes some sense, it still has many problems and things that don't quite add up. The only fact we know for sure is that Ryker saw things that a child shouldn't see. And how is Ryker doing today? In 2023, a TikTok account named WEBB posted a video showing Ryker and his older brother, Sidon. In the video, they talk about what happened in that cabin where Ryker was found. In the video, Ryker's brother asks him if he remembers the day he was found, and Ryker says yes. Then, the brother asks what he saw in that cabin, and Ryker tries to explain. It's hard to understand exactly what Ryker said, but it seems like someone was living in the abandoned cabin where he was found. This makes the story even stranger. But at least we can see how Ryker is now, and he seems to be well and recovered. No matter what Ryker saw or went through that day, we hope he has been able to forget those bad things and that he can live his life without trauma. May he be happy and have a peaceful life despite what happened. If you enjoyed the story and want to support the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You can also become a member to further encourage the content. See you next time.